Welcome to another emission of Globedades. This is a podcast from the Faculty of Global Studies at Anáhuac University in Mexico City. And today I have a very special guest. It's Dr. Alina Gamboa. She has been with us before. And today we are going to talk about a very interesting event that we are having next month in a couple of weeks in November, and it's called the North American Process. Alina, welcome again in this podcast. And could you tell us what is the North American Process about?
Okay, so the North American Process started about in 2013. It is, the idea is to have a symposium to bring together members of government, of industry, business, and academia, and manage having a conversation between the three sectors in the three countries of North America. So the idea is, since North America started with an integration process, starting from first the US-Canada trade agreement and then the North American Free Trade Agreement, there has been a process of cooperation between the three nations. And the idea here is to make sure that this cooperation is being led not just by government priorities, but priorities also of industry, of NGOs, and of academia, so that we can have the best possible outcome with this cooperation and integration with the three nations. So the symposium starts in 2013, and it until 2020, when it went online, it was a presential conference, and gathering people who could communicate the priorities of each country, but also bring about suggestions of what is needed and what is required. So, for example, there was one symposium that dealt a lot with the automotive industry. So there were quite a few members of the automotive industry who came in and expressed their needs, their suggestions, and government officials also conversed with them, as well as academics. And recommendations were written up and sent to the three governments as a part of this conversation. The conversation is not one-sided. It's not just academics. It's not just industry. It's not just government. It's all three coming together and bringing about new proposals and new ideas for legislation and for better cooperating in individual sectors.
So we are talking about several topics, as you mentioned, and also we're talking about the partnership between three academic institutions. Can you tell us more about the partners that we have in this occasion for the symposium, which is going to be the 8th, actually?
Okay, so for the 8th symposium, we have partnering, and our long-term partner, which has been Arizona State University. And this year joining us is Carleton University from Canada. So Arizona State University is a very interesting partner. They have, it is a large university, has a very large academic history, and particularly on North American integration, a lot of research on different aspects of North American integration, and they have several campuses in Arizona and outside of Arizona as well. Carleton University is based in Ottawa, so they have very strong government connection, and they're keen on seeing how Canada is integrating into North America as well, and particularly interested in the trilateral, but also understanding more about Mexico as well. So the three institutions are working together and forming this symposium, and this year is going to be a little bit different. We're working on several themes at a time. We're calling them tracks. So there are 5 tracks that are going to be discussed this year. The first one is trade. The second one is security. third one is migration. The fourth one is environmental, water issues, trilateral issues. And our fifth one is energy. So here we are going to be joining up with not just international studies and international business, but also other academic areas, as well as NGOs that might be interested in coming and conversing, giving their point of view on what is needed in legislation and cooperation between the three nations.
Yeah, I was having a look at the tracks and the sub themes that each track has, and they're very interesting topics. We're looking at, for example, in the track which is dedicated to trade, we're looking at sub themes like nearshoring, semiconductors, regional integration, infrastructure, logistics, and digital trade. For example, in the one which is dealing with migration, we have as sub themes public policy, human rights, refugees, migrant caravans, regional threats, temporary workers program, and remittances. We also have the one which is dedicated to energy, and this one is divided into alternative energies, regulation, transition, investment, and research networks. Also, there is one dedicated to security, which deals with cybersecurity, human trafficking, regional threats, border security, security, and trade. And finally, the one that you were mentioning that is dedicated to water and environmental issues. We have a border affairs, pollution, scarcity, international treaties, border regional environment, trilateral collaboration, water management, and Article 24 of the TMEC. So those are all the sub-themes that we have. And which will be some of the aims of these of each of the tracks and all the sub themes which are going to be discussed, because I think in previous symposiums there were in fact some recommendations, but I think maybe there wasn't like a proper follow-up of all the conclusions that were or the proposals that were made after each of these events. How would this new the eighth symposium is trying to like consolidate all these discussions or bring new elements to all these sub themes which are going to be discussed?
Well, the idea in previous symposiums, there was an overarching theme that was addressed. And so since the theme changed each time that the symposium was held, there wasn't that continuity, because if you were talking about trade in one and specifically automotive trade, and then the next one you're talking about migration, there really isn't a way to follow up and go feed into the other. And that is why we're trying to this time to get through all the tracks and all the themes, so we can have a continuity, so we can be meeting up each year and throughout the year in research networks and writing up white papers, doing research that is up to date and is feeding into the next symposium, so that we can have this continuity, since we are not going to be changing themes. So this eighth one, we're starting with the 5 tracks. Next symposium, we will continue with the same 5 tracks. So the idea is to having the sub themes is to start the conversation. But as you can tell, some of these themes actually overlap. Migration overlaps with security, security overlaps with trade. So we're not trying to corner into something very rigid. We are starting a conversation, and what we want are to bring together people who are working in these areas, who are researching these areas, who are like NGOs who are helping in these areas, that they can come together and see what the needs are and have a more global viewpoint of each of these themes. So migration isn't just going to be seen through international relations point of view. There is a commercial point of view there. There is a security aspect to it. We have people from our School of Social Responsibility coming in and talking about it, as well as other areas. So the idea is for this conversation to be as wide as possible. And of course, there will be overlap because of it. But for it to continue throughout the next symposiums, the 9th, the 10th, etc., which will be held in different countries. This year we're having it in Mexico. Next year is going to be held in Phoenix, and we're expecting that for 2025 we will have it in Ottawa. Yes, I'm trying to think, what year am I living in?
Yeah, just a reminder to all those who are watching and listening to this podcast. Today, we are talking about the North American process, which is an event that will be held at Anáhuac University in the month of November. And we're talking with Dr. Alina Gamboa. My name is Arturo Flores, and this is Globedades, a podcast from the Faculty of Global Studies at Anáhuac University in Mexico. So you were mentioning about linking other faculties within Anáhuac, like which will be those actors that you think could play a role, an interesting role in all these discussions about the 5 tracks and the sub-themes. And as you said, I think I agree with you in the sense that we are talking about topics which are interrelated, with each other, and the agendas are quite broad. So I mean, you could like make these linkages and try to develop even within Anáhuac to the inside of the university, like develop research networks or try to explore exchanges of staff and students as well. So what can you tell us about this?
Let me show through an example of the theme of migration. So migration is a theme that can be seen from different aspects. Migration has been used as a leverage for trade, so conditioning trade. So we have both of those aspects coming in, and it is something that in the School of Business and School of International Business and international trade, they're going to be looking at it from that point of view. The School for Social Responsibility is going to be looking a lot at areas as in protection of migrants, of human rights, what in the School of Psychology, if they decide to join us, they would be thinking why migration is such a weighted topic. Why is it such a weighted topic for those who are leaving? Why they will leave, what is happening that they feel like they have to leave their country and go someplace else. And those who are in the country, why it's so hard to accept migrants into their country. So there, you have a very broad reach of a theme. And if we all have the conversation, then we can look at policy from more an interdisciplinary point of view. If we're only thinking of how it affects our commercial relations with another country, then we're leaving out what makes migrants leave, what makes migrants come, what social disruptions cause in a country. If we're only looking at the migrants' rights, then we're not looking about how it affects both the countries they leave. I mean, we see in Mexico, for example, entire small towns that are devoid of men who've gone for as temporary workers. And that has caused a strong social disruption in that particular town. We need to see it from all the points of view to really bring about policies that are going to benefit all 3 countries. If we only look at migration as a problem that affects the receiving countries, we forget how it affects the country where migrants are leaving from. So we really need to broaden our point of view and bring about these discussions, as uncomfortable as they could get at some point, but bring in other points of view, because we tend to get very much in our discipline, and I mean we all do it, and it's such a breath of fresh air to listen from another discipline's point of view and open up the conversation, as well as government, because sometimes, as if you're watching a football game from the outside, it's not the same to be watching the game on television and saying, oh, they should be doing this and they should be doing that, and then actually being one of the coaches telling the players what to do. And so when you get to listen to a coach, or in this case, those who form government policy, of why they can or cannot do certain things in policy, then it also opens up your research to understand how you can bring it to a plausible plausible policy that can actually be implemented, and not just have it at a sort of wishful theoretical point of view. Although those are very good exercises to do, what we want here is to open it up, and it gets a little bit messier when you bring more conversation in, but I think it's more enriching, and at the end the result will be a lot more fruitful for everyone involved.
Yeah, I entirely agree with you. I think that having practitioners is a very important part of these types of events, because you can like try to it would be like saying that, making a link between academia, which will be like the theoretical part, and then putting the practitioners in the same room, or the NGOs, or other actors. I think it makes the whole discussion more interesting and more real in many ways. Like, of course, you have the people who think about the theories, the developments, but also you have the practitioners who know all the obstacles or all the things that you could face when you want to implement public policies. So I think that's a very good mix of having, actors from the private sector, NGOs, practitioners from the government itself, and academia. I think that's like we are trying to develop this quadruple helix, which has been highlighted by many, in academia normally, which is like the ideal process of governance and all these things. So we are looking at a process like that, I think. Also, I wanted to ask you whether you are looking at bringing other academic actors, or from Mexico itself, from the United States, and from Canada. Will they be part of this process, or would you like to make them part of this process too?
Well, we definitely want to invite as broad as possible. As far as the academic section, we are really interested in forming academic research networks with the 3 countries involved, so that all of our publications and all of the products that come out of these conferences have the 3-country, the trilateral aspect to it. Even if in some issues they might not seem as, one or the other might not seem as relevant, the whole idea is the more we cooperate among the 3 nations, the stronger North America will be, the more competitive it will be, and the more we are able to solve solutions. We do think that 3 heads, in this sense, that 3 nations are better than one, not necessarily to become one, no, to each have their independent roles, but that each point of view will bring in something positive to this relationship and to the region as a whole. So for the first part, that's the part. Now, the symposium in itself has a physical aspect, so we will be meeting physically in Mexico City, and those who are able to come, academics from Mexico City, business, from the different governments or embassies that would like to join us for any of the particular topics, are welcome to come prior to a registration, just for having the logistics and the numbers arranged. So we will have people coming in and guests who are at this point registering and confirming their participation in person. But we will also have an option to jump into the conference online and participate in any way, shape, or form. So there will also be a registration for the online participation, particularly so that there can be, so we can send out the links, so we can send out and we can have a question and answer and participate as much as possible within the conference. So this is a new thing where this conference has taken place or fully in person or fully online. So having this hybrid is a new thing for us, but we would very much like as many people who are interested to be aware of the conference and to understand what it's about and participate as much or as little as they would like to participate. So as an example, if I have research and I've been doing research for a long time in a particular area that's being touched upon in the conference and I want to present it, I can do so. I can come and talk about my research and what I have found and my conclusions, and then discuss with others where we could go from there. If I am thinking about doing research in a particular area, I can jump in online or in person to that particular table or that particular session and listen in and ask questions and network with those who are on the panel and on the discussion table. To see where we could work together. So those are different ways of participating. And same thing for those who are not in academia, who are business or in government, who want to just jump in and see what it's all about.
Okay, great. So, to all of those who are listening and watching this podcast today, we are talking about the North American process, which is an event that will take place in the month of November at Anáhuac University in Mexico City. And this is Globedades, a podcast from the Faculty of Global Studies. My name is Arturo Flores. And today we have as our special guest Dr. Alina Gamboa. So, going to the, I have two questions for you. First, if you can give us the exact dates or the exact date this event is going to take place.
Okay, so we are going to be meeting in person here in Mexico City on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of November. So the first 2 days are going to be full-on discussions and presentations on the different tracks. And the last day we will be coming with conclusions and bringing forward decisions for networks and to move forward the process. So although the event itself is 15th, 16th, and 17th of November, the early next year, early 2024, we will be setting up more meetings, these all online, for further discussions and to see where we're moving on white papers and on publications. Because obviously these discussions are enriching for the people in the discussion and in the room. However, what we would like to see is for these discussions to go further than just the four walls where they're spoken. And this will be done through publications, through white papers, through bringing out and giving a broader audience the opportunity to read and to reflect on the same issues that we have reflected in the conference.
So the dynamic of each session is going to be like you will have like a number of people like in person or online, as you mentioned, and then they will present for an amount of time, presentations, and then from there on, the discussion will start. Is that the way the sessions will be carried out?
Yes. So depending on each session and how many people are signed up for each session, we are envisioning about 50 to 60 minutes of presentations of discussing research that has already been carried out. Mm-hmm. And then followed by about 30 to 40 minutes of a discussion with everyone else in the room. So if we have 5 speakers, they might spend 10 minutes each talking about their research, and then the discussion that would ensue. If we have 3 speakers, then we would have more of a 20-minute presentation and then following, or if they only want to present 10 minutes, then we would have a more dynamic discussion afterwards, a longer discussion afterwards. So we still have a very flexible format, but the idea here is that if you want to speak and present, that you would have a chance to do so. If you want to listen in and see how the current speakers you can work with them on some new research that you want to undertake, that could go through. If you are business or government, that you could put through proposals or things that you would like to see, and that these discussions could be very much circular, that each would influence the other, so that when governments go away, that they have new ideas of what they could implement, that business, when they go away, they have new ideas and they feel heard on what needs to be done, or what their problems are, or what problems they're facing in each of these aspects, and that academia can put it together and write it up in a way that can come up with new proposals that would bring in more points of view.
Great. So could you tell us a bit more about the registration process, just to clarify which will be the steps? So, for example, if I'm an academic or an NGO person or a practitioner, and I would like to register, where can I go to, or how is this process going to take place?
Well, hopefully you have some place on your podcast where you can put in the links. If so, there would be 2 different links. There's a link for in person, if you'd like to participate in person. You would register and you would put in what sector you're in and which area you'd like to. You can register for as many sessions as you'd like, or just one. It depends on what you would like. So if you want to be here in person and you want to speak at one table and just attend other ones of the sub themes, that's perfectly fine. And there would be opportunities for networking in between sessions if you're in person. So there will be if you can attend in person and you'd like to, there is a registration for being here in person. If you are unable to travel, or you would just like to come in to one or another of the sessions, then you can register online and you fill out, it's just a different link, and from there you put in what table you'd like to go through. The registration process is important because that will give us an idea of how to organize best each table and make sure we optimize the time of everyone who has made the effort to attend. So
there's a website as well. You were telling me it's northamericanprocess.org, right?
Yes. So northamericanprocess.org is our website, and there should be, if not just yet, but in the next couple of days, we should have it up and running with the registration forms. So on the website is up and running. You can go into the website and see all the previous symposiums, what was discussed, who was there, etc. Just right now, it's in the process of being updated, and it's taking a little bit, but it should be up and running in the next couple of days with the links to the registration forms and the preliminary program right now. So giving you times and dates for each one of the tables. This program is pretty much set, although depending on numbers, we might have a little bit of flexibility to enter some other networking opportunities. But at this point, these are the times and dates and the subjects that will be discussed in each of the tables.
Well, Dr. Alina, thank you very much for being with us today and sharing this very valuable information about the eighth North American Process Symposium organized by Arizona State University, Carleton University, and Anáhuac, Mexico University. So thank you very much. And I hope that all the people who are watching or listening to the podcast are have an interest to participate in this upcoming event. Thank you, Alina. Would you like to give a last message or say something to the people?
Well, just thank you very much. And if you are interested in regional processes, if you're interested in how regional cooperation can be beneficial for each of the countries, and in general, it's not just that it's beneficial automatically. The reason for the symposium is because although we do think that regional cooperation is important, it has to be done in a way um, that's purposeful, and it's not just automatically going to produce the results that are expected. So just signing a free trade agreement doesn't mean that trade will increase and trade will be benefit everyone unless there's purposeful policy and cooperation that follows it. And that's where we come in, bringing about and highlighting the issues that have to be addressed in order for these negotiations and this cooperation between the three nations to actually have the impact that is desired. That is what they set out to start to do in the first place. So if this is of interest, we would very much like to have you. And thank you, Arturo, for having me.
Well, this was another emission of Globedades. My name is Arturo Flores. This is a podcast from the Faculty of Global Studies at Anáhuac University. Thank you all and see you in the next emission. Bye bye.